Hey everybody, we're going to talk about surveys, overall design strategies for surveys. In your instructions, possibly define the objective of the survey and the key terms that people might need to know to be able to address your survey. If you do this, be brief, but be clear, right? Nobody wants to take a survey. They don't understand what's going on. And sometimes we might think, oh, what was in the link? You know, people punched on the link to get here. They should know what the survey is about. No, you repeat it. And it's really important because sometimes people, for whatever reason, don't do the survey right away, or they forgot, or they're a little fuzzy. It just allows for another step to say, here's what the survey is about. Thank you. And you can even start out with thank you. Thank you for clicking on the survey about blank, or taking the time to fill out the survey about blank. Key terms are the following, maybe bolded and bulleted, maybe. Let's go to focusing on the 5 W's and the 1 H. This is classic journalism, the who, what, where, when, why. Who, what, when, where, why, if I can get that out of my mouth, and how. So very important to think about it, and sometimes rhetorically too. So who is writing what to whom for what purpose? In this case, who in your topic is particularly important to address, and what aspect of the topic do you want people to most focus in on, and for what purpose? It should be real clear to the person filling out that survey what the purpose is to. The briefer the questions, the better. Absolutely. Last or first, often a debate, and a debate even among Paul Anderson in his book, Technical Communication. Do you ask for all the identifiers of the person, whether they're undergrad, grad, staff, male, female, binary, non-binary, major, how old they are? Do you do that first? Do you do it last? And there's rationale for putting it last. And look, I even put in parentheses, most likely do it at last. And Anderson makes a strong case. Look in the book and you'll see, but very briefly, he just says you want to get people in. You don't want to lose them. And sometimes with all that information, they get a little bit like, oh God, it's going to be too long. So in the instructions, maybe even say this 2-minute survey, 3-minute survey, but be honest. I mean, if it is 3 minutes, you don't want to be disingenuous either. But if it's brief, brag about it, get out front in the instructions, right? In that introduction as well, right? Focus on the 5 W's, the H, be brief. And then again, the identifiers might come at the end, or many of them might come at the end. The risk there is that people get lazy too at the end of a long interview or survey, and they might not fill out the information completely. So I just want to say one more thing on identifiers. It's really, really important, so important. When we're doing any kind of research for campus initiatives that might even have a remote capability of being published in any forum outside the walls of ESF or outside the walls of SU, you cannot identify people by name. You can identify people to the point where they could be traced back and their private information in any way shared. That's absolute. Now we're dipping into an issue of ethics, and it is actually controlled by a body on campus. And so what's really cool, this is great, you should know this. There's a whole agency, and there's a person, a professional at SU that also ESF will consult with. And we work with as an authority in this area to make the case as to whether or not questions are allowed or not if you're doing formal research at a graduate level. And it's really important. It's, again, to give us a checkpoint for ethics, to make sure that there is not disparaging information, and there's a degree of professionalism, because in that way you're representing the university as well, not only your own ethics, but the university. So it's really important on that. So the only thing we do, these are generic, like marketing type surveys. So we're in a different category, but we still don't identify the person. We can only do it by other demographics. And again, it's up to them as to whether or not to fill in some of these things. Sometimes people will opt out. You can allow for opt-out options on some of those identifiers. Even, and I say identifiers, technically they're more by what that person considers themselves, in terms of gender and so on. All right, cool. If you got more questions, let me know on that one. Ask questions to see how they would define your topic. All right, and you want to give them options. So the trick here is to how you used closed-ended questions looped in with open-ended questions. Could you give me an example, comment? Oftentimes that attached to a yes, no question is a good idea. If you overburden them with comments, they might feel like they don't want to complete the survey. So that's the flip. Consider using different kinds of questions. Ranking check as many apply. Consider a Likert scale, which is a scale of 1 to 5. Again, you'll see Paul Anderson for this, please. I'm just kind of briefing it, but the ranking is an excellent way to understand how they're thinking as to what a priority is to them. Do not ask leading questions. Leading questions are ones that bait people into opinions. Don't you think that the politics right now are demeaning? Well, that's a baiting question. You might say that's legitimate and that might be your opinion, but that's just the point. It's your opinion and you're flexing it through the question, baiting people to kind of come along with you. And that's what a leading question does. If surveying the receptivity to alternatives, options of implementation, be sure they understand costs and possibly ask questions like this. If it were to cost an additional $50 activities fee, which of the following options would you like enacted? So this question was more germane when we were doing campus type projects, and I would think it could still be germane to your gig proposal because sometimes there is a fee if they're going to come in on an idea. So let's say, for example, you're sharing certain kinds of information up on the internet. What would you think is a fair price for it? What might be a way to rearrange this question? Consider using a Twitter social media poll. Again, thinking about placement of the poll is really important. We do have Facebook pages for most groups. We've got, if you will, ways to get information. So sometimes through your sorority, your fraternity, sometimes through your actual page for your ranking. So if you're a junior at ESF, there'll be a page just for you, and you can post to all fellow juniors, if you will. And so possibly using that modality would be a cool idea to get some feedback. All right. You know, you might be defining the topic by what it solves. You might do a quick search of, yeah. This is interesting too, and this is more germane information post interview. So this is funny. I slid into this slide. I'm not going to get into it. This is mapping post survey, so it's not germane to it, and I'm gonna exit out. I wasn't sure if I had an extra slide on surveys, and no, this is not that. All right, guys, have a good day. And if you have more questions on surveys, please consult Paul Anderson's text, Technical Communication. You can also look at Mike Markle's text by that very unique title, Technical Communication, or John Lannon again. All those textbooks are available at the library, and there are often PDF versions of older copies of those textbooks as well. Very helpful for surveys. And always email me, let me know if you've got questions, okay? And good. And take care.